Welcome back, Leanaholics. I'm your host, Dr. Lean. Today we're going to be talking about the voice of the customer. Now, the voice of the customer is a very, very important tool. So you say, well, why do we use it? Well, we use it to make sure that we're hearing the voice of the customer, real original, right? Well, the whole point is, I'm telling you, it's harder to listen to the customer than you think, because I'm going to be honest with you, I don't like giving book answers, even though I'm a facilitator and I train this for a living. On the charter, that first tool that you're doing, let's be honest with ourselves. Are we really listening to the customer most times? Well, customer complaints and feedback probably lent us to saying this problem's messed up, so we should probably fix it, right? But in all reality, when we're framing the charter, most times in most of the teams I work on, you're generally thinking about the voice of the business, maybe even the voice of the employees, but we're listening to ourselves internally more often. Now, granted, we could be internal customers, but the idea is we're generally focused more on the business aspect of it until we get to the voice of the customer. And that's one of the reasons why we say the charter is a living, breathing document, because it will be updated again. And this is one of the tools that's going to lend itself to doing so. So after we finish the charter, we wanted to first of all make sure we solidified the scope with using the SIPOOC tool. And on that SIPOOC tool, we were able to identify who our key customers actually are. Now, who exactly is the primary customer here? Well, who's paying us to do this process? That's going to be who my primary customer is in most cases. So I need to be focusing outward and saying who's paying me to do this and how do they want it done. So I need to be listening to them. And the long form just says, hey, my customer complaint, for instance, says, I don't like this form. It takes too long and there are too many lines on it and all this other stuff. And I don't have time for this. That's the long form. Right? Then we whittle it down until you see that critical customer requirement. So by poking and prodding a little more, we find out that, oh, well, the conclusion is most of the customers said if we did a form that was 5 minutes or less, they wouldn't mind it. There you go. There's a critical customer requirement. Once we have those critical customer requirements, we need to make sure that those critical customer requirements are tied directly back to our goals, directly back to our problem or opportunity statement. So we can say, is what they're saying and what's critical to them, critical to the customer, is that represented on our charter? Remember, we're storytellers. That's what we do for a living. So those first three documents should be just aligned. All of them should be telling the same cohesive story. What is the business saying? What are the employees saying? What are the customers saying? We get all those goals established and we get the critical customer requirements. We've got to have a way to track these things. Well, that's where the metrics come in. So metrics are what we're going to use to say, okay, they want it to be in 5 minutes or less to complete the entire form. We can track the time it takes them to fill out the form. So that being said, that's a measurable unit that we can use to track this. Now here's the thing with the metrics though, they're used to measure the overall process performance, right? And they track progress towards our goals. And they establish a baseline. So when we're in our measure phase later on, we need to establish that baseline. If we made improvements, how do you actually know? Gut feel, oh, we're just doing it faster? Well, we need to have a baseline established so that when we do these improvements, we know where we started, we can analyze it, and then once we improve on it, then we can actually prove that we made a significant improvement. So we need a baseline in order to represent where we are. So once we get to where we're going, we know that it truly is better. So that being said, good metrics are going to be customer focused. They're focused on the customer. What do they need? So how do we develop these metrics? Well, we use the acronym SMART again, and it's slightly different than the one you did in the goals. It's specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, but this time it's trackable. Can we actually track this? When you're listening to the customer, the biggest thing that you can do is pull out the relevant information so you can get those critical requirements so that you can track them. And also you can track them not only like time tracking, but making sure that you're tracking them in the storyline and they match up to what the business has on the charter. So that coherent storyline is built with those first three tools: charter, SIPOOC, and voice of the customer, with some good solid metrics. So I hope that helps you to fill out your voice of the customer moving forward. I hope to see you in the classroom.